Welcome back, baseball fans. It is Crabcakes and Baseball. I am Jerry Shank. With me, as always, our Maryland Scouting Director for Prep Baseball Report, Jamie Naill. Jamie, how is things going?
Phenomenal, Jerry, like always.
Good, good deal. We got the best time of the year, folks. We got playoffs, and we're getting closer and closer across the state. For Maryland, playoffs are getting ready to get underway. We've got some private school playoffs that have started and are underway. And after Monday, we're going to have a clearer picture on the MPSSAA. Monday is the final bit of games in the state, and then you've got some conference championships that'll go on Tuesday. But the meat and potatoes will be done after Monday, and then we'll start the seeding on Tuesday for the entire playoffs. So very excited for that. So you're going to get an extra dose of crab cakes and baseball this week. This week we're going to do a quick one, do some recap of the current playoff situation in private schools. Then later in the week we're going to give our MPSSA playoff preview for when the first round of games start kicking out. So it'll be right there, right around either the first round or games or right after that. We're going to try to get it turn around as quickly as we can, within between trying to get the games and actually get on here and spend some time on the computer because Jamie's working like a madman right now across the board, um, trying to get the most information and input to all of you. So let's get going with this episode. And we're going to go straight into our private school playoffs as I had mentioned before. We're going to start this week. We started our WCAC playoffs, and we got a review already. We got to go over it because this week we're already into the semifinals. So to start things off, it's an 8-team conference. Just make sure everybody knows your number one seed and number two seed got buys in the playoffs, which were St. John's and Gonzaga, both in the Virginia D.C. area. So you got a quick review of what happened. The 8 seed, the Heights, defeated 9 seed um, Riken, and then the 7 seed Bishop Ireton defeated the number 10 seed Bishop McNamara. Um, Number 4 seed Paul VI then defeated number 5 seed Good Counsel. And an upset in the playoffs, you got your number 6 seed Bishop O'Connell, who defeated the 3 seed DeMatha. And then in the next round of games, St. John's then defeated number 8 Heights, and Gonzaga defeated Ireton. So, saying all of that, we've got the semis coming up right now. It's a best of 3 setup in the WCAC, one of my favorite setups for playoff baseball. You've got a Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday if necessary. It's the best 2 out of 3. So they'll play Monday, they play Tuesday, and if it's necessary, if it's a split after those 2 games, they'll play on Wednesday for the champ of that series. So your first matchup is going to be your number 1 seed St. John's against Paul VI, and then in the other semifinal you've got Gonzaga, the defending champ Gonzaga, I should say, taking on the 6 seed Bishop O'Connell. So you've got 4 Virginia teams in there right now, Virginia or DC area teams. But before we move on to the next one, Jamie, I do want to just mention it was a really good year this year, especially for a Maryland team, DeMatha. We have talked about them, I feel like almost every week we've at least mentioned them. We were wondering if this was going to be a year that you really saw a step in that program in a different direction. And for all intents and purposes, man, I think we did see that this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, DeMatha with the high-powered offense, we definitely saw them, and they really came on late, and they were really rolling towards the end of the regular season. It was a tough, defeat to O'Connell, which is a very good team, as we know. But we really saw DeMatha getting through to the semis when you and I talked, just privately. So that was a tough one there, and Good Counsel as well. We saw Good Counsel play extremely well this year during the regular season. They were rolling as well. So it's tough to see DeMath and Good Counsel bounce early, as well as McNamara as being the other Maryland team. But that just goes to show how tough this WCAC is.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's always been an extremely competitive conference and one of the most unique conferences across the country, having schools from three different areas, 2 states, 1 district. Obviously, you don't have that anywhere else, but it's just such a great group of schools, especially baseball and across the board too. The sports are just really good in the WCAC. So, congrats to DeMatha, good counsel on really strong seasons. Definitely don't count them out for next year too, and I'm sure they're chomping at the bit, ready to go. So let's get into our next playoff review so far, and that's the IAC. IAC is another one that goes across that same threshold of Maryland, Virginia, and District of Columbia. You've got the number one and two seeds, which was Georgetown Prep out of Bethesda, and then St. Albans out of DC. They both received buys, and so then you saw the three seed St. Stephen's and St. Agnes. They defeated the six seed Episcopal. Both those schools are in DC, and then your number four seed Landon from Maryland defeated number five seed Bullis, also from Maryland. And so they both advanced to the semifinals, which are this week. Now, the way this conference sets up their semifinals, it's a winner take all one game semifinal, and then you get the three-game series for the championship. So the championship finals will be later on this week, but you've got some really nice matchups. And the first one is your number one seed again, Georgetown Prep. They're going to take on Landon, and then you've got St. Albans, the two seed, taking on St. Stephen's, St. Agnes, which is the three seed. So you got two Maryland squads in the semifinals. It looks like it's going to be a really fun game to watch. Jamie, I just might guess that might be a place you're going to end up being on Monday. What do you think about this playoff preview?
Yeah, yeah, I will be there on Monday for the Georgetown Prep and Landon game. Landon most likely going with their horse and Sam Rozand. Georgetown Prep is obviously high powered, but running into an arm in Rozand in a winner take all matchup, it's definitely dangerous for Georgetown Prep. So don't be extremely surprised if Landon, completes that upset. It's going to be a dogfight, and I'm looking forward to getting out there on Monday and watching it.
Yeah, for sure. Always a fun rivalry. Is are those two teams squaring off against each other who aren't too far apart from one another also. So should be a lot of fun. I envy you being able to get out there and watch that game. All right. So as we had mentioned earlier, the seating for public schools across the MPSSSA, I think I threw an extra S in there, but they get released. That'll be released on Tuesday around noon o'clock. So we will get the seedings, and then we're going to try to turn around again. We're going to try to turn around another playoff preview pod for just the MPSSAA. So be prepared for the end of this week. We're going to try to get that preview out for you. So there's that. Let's move on to some normal things that we're used to. And the first thing we want to start with is our team of the week. And our team of the week this week is Falston. Falston went 4-0 this week, really big up in the northern part of the state. They had a big win over a Power 25 team in Northeast, and then some real tough wins over some quality opponents like North Hartford and Rising Sun, just to name a few. But it was a really strong week for Falston. They're going to see themselves inside our Power 25 when we do release that. And that was one other thing I forgot to mention. Our Power 25 is going to get delayed. We're going to release the Power 25 once the regular season's over with. So that will be the final regular season Power 25. So then it will not be updated anymore until the end of all seasons. So once your MPSSAA championship is over with, then we'll do a final Power 25. So we've got one more release, and it's going to come up on Wednesday once the regular season's over with. But back to Falston, really big win. Congratulations to Falston, really coming on strong late in the year. And so congrats to them as our PBR Maryland Team of the Week. Now, let's get into games from last week. Now, normally we go over a lot of big games that go on during the week, but we really just wanted to focus on a game that you were at this week, Jamie, and it was a really good one. I know you were excited about it when when you saw it on the docket, but Damascus and Whitman did not disappoint. Went into extra innings. You got a good one on your hands.
Yeah, it was Monday under the lights at Whitman. It was extremely intriguing for me. I got a chance to see 2024 uncommitted righty um, Bryce Mitchell out of Damascus, and it was an arm that we love, and we saw him at preseason All State, and we really love the arm there. He's made extreme strides in these past couple months. So it was a chance to get out to see him, and I didn't see the game working out the way that it did, but Whitman came back and won 7-6. Damascus kind of controlled the whole game the entire time. Mitchell took a perfect game into the fifth. Ethan Murley had a big two-run bomb. Gideon Schwartz hit another two-run bomb to take the lead in the sixth. Damascus tied it up 6-6 in the seventh, and then Whitman ended up walking it off with a pass ball in the eighth. So a really nice back and forth matchup there. It was a nice opportunity to be able to see Bryce Mitchell, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit more in a second. But that was a huge early week matchup and a game that went to 8 innings with Whitman taking it. So big win there.
Yeah, and just an extra nugget. I know we've talked about him before, and you can see it on your Twitter, Jamie. Sammy Berman, we've talked about him a lot at length here. Was up to 89 out of the pen for Whitman, so it looks like he's starting to get it. That velo's starting to tick up even more. So really big note that we wanted to throw out there as well. Let's go to our MIAA minute. This one's going to be kind of short and sweet. The MIA is wrapping up as we speak. They still have some games to play this week to really get the seeding done before their playoffs get started at the end of the week. But we really saw some interesting matchups this week. First off, going to start out with Spalding. Spalding started it off a little bit tough with a 1-0 loss to Curly, but then they rebounded and had a big win over Loyola in the week. So your top team still maintaining that spot, but they're definitely showing some kinks in the armor with this latest loss to Curly. Calvert Hall was a tough week for the Cardinals. They went 0-3. They had losses to Loyola, Mount St. Joe's, and Curly. And then the aforementioned Archbishop Curly. They did lose early in the week to John Carroll, but then big wins over Spalding and Calvert Hall. So a really strong week for Archbishop Curly, going 2-1. The MIA, as we have always talked about, it's just so up and down, and I mean it more so in just the competition from top to bottom. It's such a good conference. It's highly competitive. You just never know what you're going to get. It's that Forrest Gump box of chocolates. So you're going to have a lot of fun with it, and it's continuing to do that and show it to us, Jamie, with all of these teams just showing the real strength of the conference.
Yeah, I mean the parity is really kind of showing face this year. In past years, you've always seen Spalding as being that top team, but you've seen Spalding kind of slip up against some of these teams that you don't see them losing to, and it just speaks volumes on the parity that is in the MIAA this year. It's really fun to watch because we never know what's going to happen week after week, but like I said, it's a very highly competitive conference, and you see teams, anybody can beat anybody, and it happens week after week.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So can't wait for the playoffs to get started there because that's going to be a lot of fun, as it is every year. So let's get into our last little bit here in our scout blogs. We've got a few players that we're going to talk about here. Jamie saw some really interesting players and a lot of nice uncommitted talent. So let's get it started off at that Damascus and Whitman game. And your 2024, as you had mentioned, Bryce Mitchell, really impressive. Let's break it down a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a clean arm. There's a lot of intent there. It's a high spin slider, about 25-50, 2600. He throws it for strikes. Mid 80s fastball, so we saw the fastball tick up a little bit in that game on Monday night. I just love the competitiveness. I really like how the arm works. Like I said, there's a ton of intent there. He attacks hitters. And he shut down a very high powered Whitman offense that we've seen in the past through 5 innings, or into the fifth. So there's a lot to like there. It's an uncommitted 24 that a lot of college coaches should circle. I just love the competitiveness. I like how the arm works. So Bryce Mitchell, that's a special uncommitted 2024.
Yeah. Now let's stay at that game. And we had mentioned him as well because he had a really big home run in that game. But let's break down and get it a little bit more into our 2024 uncommitted catcher out of Whitman, Gideon Schwartz.
Yeah, I love the defensive actions from Schwartz. He threw out two or three runners throughout the game. He backpicked a guy at second base. I love the arm strength. I love the footwork. I really, really like everything about him behind the plate, and he showed the prowess with the bat as well. He hit a huge 2-run home run late in the game. The hands work quick. It was an up and in fastball, I believe, that he got the barrel to. So there's a lot of strength there in the frame. He's super athletic, so that's a guy that can really impact the game on both sides of the ball, and he definitely impressed on Monday night.
All right, now let's go back to the bump a little bit, and let's talk about a pitcher. Now, we've talked about before on this show one of our favorite uncommitted arms in the 24 class, and that's down at Huntingtown High School, and your 2024 uncommitted right-handed pitcher, Logan Hastings.
Yeah, finally got a chance to get down to the smack, Jerry.
Yes.
So I was talking to both coaches, and I told them, how much I would love to get down there more, and it's just tough with being a 2-hour trip down to Southern Maryland. But Logan Hastings, that's a very, very special arm. It's a quick arm. He was mid to upper 80s on the night, 86, 87, touched 88 once or twice. You want to talk about a high spin guy? That's extremely high spin. 3,000 on the curveball. He averages anywhere from 28 to 29.50. The fastball really comes out of the hand well. It's high intent there as well. So that's a special arm that we continue to see the velo tick up. The other thing with him is he battled adversity throughout the game. In the first inning, obviously, I was getting velo and getting video behind the plate, and the strike zone was about 2 inches by 2 inches. He was throwing the ball and cutting the middle of the plate down the middle, and nothing was being called a strike. So it was kind of battled adversity early on in the game, but he did well, and it showed his competitiveness, and he really calmed the situation down extremely well. So it was impressive just on that note, and obviously the stuff was impressive as well.
Absolutely. All right, now let's go to the Eastern Shore now for the rest of our players and Delaware. Excuse me, I don't want to forget about Delaware. And speaking of which, let's get to the one player that I do want to talk about right now. We've had the opportunity to see him at a few scout days earlier in the year, but 2025 two-way talent Sean Eli out of Sussex Tech.
Yeah, we saw the arm especially in that scout day with the East Coast Royals over the winter. It's a special player. It's a special two-way guy as well. The bat has played immensely. The times that we've seen him, I believe we've seen him two or three different times.
Mhm.
It's pure. It's pure. Like he can go gap to gap. It's a line drive tendency swing. There's developing actions on the bump as well. Once he puts some strength on, once he grows a little bit, that's going to be a special 25 to keep eyes on.
All right, now let's get to some Bayside on the Eastern Shore. And first off, let's talk about a future games alumni, really interesting player in 2024, uncommitted, AJ Kolb out of Stephen Decatur.
Yeah, he's explosive, and you want to talk about speed kills. That's a guy that can absolutely burn around the bases. He went to infield about a year ago, so he changed his position a little bit, added some versatility. We like the actions in the infield, but like I said, the speed impacts the game immensely on both sides of the ball, and it's a guy that can make an immediate impact to any program across the country. The bat's really starting to play now. He's showcasing some strength. He can go gap to gap. He hit a double in the game that our staff was at. So my guy really liked the swing. Video looked really good, and obviously we've been a big fan of Kolb throughout these past few years. So that's another special uncommitted 2024.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the one thing that you can't teach, and any coach will tell you, is speed. I mean, you can try to knock it down a little bit, but that's one tool that you want to have, you know, on your resume. And him being a sub 6.660 type runner, which we've had him at below at 6.6, and he can book it, and he can definitely do that. And I think one great thing about his game is that you're starting to see him starting to utilize that a little bit more and really take advantage of that and being that pest on the field and really create that impact because that speed it changes the game. It's one tool that definitely changes the game. So you want to take advantage of it, and he has that type of speed that he can really have an effect on a game by utilizing it. So enough of my little diatribe there. Let's talk about some arms, man. And we our intern out in on the Eastern Shore just put on a display for us like the last 3 or 4 days on the Eastern Shore, and we ran into some really interesting 2025 arms. Let's start off at Decatur still. 2025 right-handed pitcher Nate Berzonski.
Yeah, this one really exploded onto the scene. We've heard of the velo really creeping up these past couple months, and we were finally able to see it. And once our intern texted me that night and said, "Hey, Berzonski's coming into the game," I said, "Get as much video as you possibly can." And he did, and he crushed it. Absolutely, he crushed it. Um, it's a physical frame. He was up to 91. He threw four pitches, all for strikes. He filled up the strike zone. Two different breaking balls. He threw, like I said, both for strikes. What he did, and we showed it a little bit in the video that we put out on Twitter, is he messed with hitters' timings, almost like a little Johnny Cueto thing. He was messing with the timings. He was messing with the leg kicks. It just exudes confidence out on the bump. He faced a really tough Cape Henlopen team and shut him down pretty well. So that's a very special 2025 arm there up to 91.
Yeah, for sure, and a lot to like with that frame too. So definitely a name. Write it down. 2025 Nate Berzonski. And let's stay with the 25 class. Why not? We found another really interesting arm up in North Dorchester in the uncommitted 2025 Jordan Rogolski.
Yeah, another uncommitted 25 that we ran into. So this one was a little earlier in the week, but he was up to 90. We saw him earlier this spring. I believe he was upper 80s, but he touched 90 twice in the outing that we were able to see him. It's a long frame, 6'3", about 155, 160 pounds, so there's still plenty of room to fill that frame out. In that game, he went complete game, 6 innings, 10 Ks, only gave up one hit, no runs. He was efficient, 82 pitches, threw a bunch of strikes. So that's a 25 that's young, it's a live arm, and he fills up the zone. So it's extremely impressive. So him and Berzonski as being uncommitted 25s, that's very special. That two guys that we were able to see last week.
Yeah, for sure. So it's showing there's definitely some good talent across the old line state and in Delaware, and we've been fortunate enough to run across it, run into it, and try to get it out as much as we can to make sure everyone knows. So for Jamie Naill, I'm Jerry Shank. Again, don't forget, folks, we're going to have another pod at the end of this week. We're going to be doing our MPSSAA preview. We said this was going to be a quick one, but when you start talking baseball, Jamie, I throw everything out the window because I love to talk. So, apologies to still make it a long one, but it was a really good episode today. Thank all of you for listening. I want to thank everyone for their continued support. Guys, we'll see you at the end of the week, and we're going to be doing our MPSSAA playoff preview. So we'll see you then because it's crab cakes and baseball. It's what PBR Maryland does.